Hello, this is D, and I'm back with another video, and today I have the news that you guys have been waiting for. The end is in sight, finally, for the acquisition of Blizzard from Microsoft. Now, the CMA has provisionally approved Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal, and a final ruling is now expected before the 18th of October. Now, this is coming courtesy of Tom Warren over at TheVerge.com. Like usual, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Now, before we get into his little write-up, I have a video that was linked by PostUp with a Yahoo analyst talking about the CMA preliminary approval. Now, they say some interesting things in there, and they say some things in there that I don't really agree with. So I think before we get into Tom Warren's write-up, we should watch this video of them talking about this new development.
Microsoft announcing a new deal today to get its $69 billion bid for Activision Blizzard past UK regulators. Yahoo Finance's Dan Howley and Alexis Keenan are here to break down the story. Dan, let's start with you. So talk to us about what's in this refreshed deal.
Yeah, so the deal basically is separate from what's going on in the EU, and what this calls for is for rival Ubisoft to get access to Activision Blizzard's games in the cloud. So it doesn't have to do with the console specifically, it's about cloud gaming, and that would seem to be the UK's biggest concern. Now, what that means is that they would be licensed to Ubisoft. They would have access to Activision Blizzard's titles, their exclusives, and then Microsoft and others would be able to license it from there. Ubisoft does have its own cloud platform, but it's not as big as Microsoft's, and so now we're going to see Ubisoft essentially relicense things back to Microsoft after they pay Microsoft to get access to them. So it's kind of this weird circular logic going on here, but at the end of the day, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard seem to think that it'll satisfy regulators in the UK.
What do you think, Alexis? Do you think it's going to satisfy regulators?
That is a maybe right now. Now, this could end the global challenges that have been brought against this deal, but that just leaves the U.S. as a big question mark here, because now the U.K. is the only country left still challenging this accord after the U.S. had withdrawn its FTC litigation. That one was retracted by the FTC after an appellate court in the United States said it would not pause the deal, so it doesn't have the legal authority to stop it. But look, that doesn't mean that the FTC can't still go after this deal, can't challenge it. That brings in the DOJ too. They have the right to bring a suit. And look, these antitrust actions, they can be brought after even a deal is closed, so it may make sense for Microsoft and Activision to get the blessing of the U.S. authorities, but right now that's not in play. We've reached out to the FTC. They are not commenting on whether or not this UK sort of re-proposal will change its thinking along these lines. So far, we have 40 countries approximately that have okayed this deal. So yeah, leaving the big question mark here in the US.
Now, I have no idea what she is talking about. Did she watch the hearings with the FTC versus Microsoft? Their evidence was weak. Their evidence actually proved Microsoft's case. Congress was extremely unhappy with the FTC. They gave them a public scolding. They reduced their funding by a huge amount. The FTC is not going to be going after Microsoft for this deal because their reasons were not sound, and their reasons were not even the same as the UK. So I have no idea what this lady's talking about. She does not seem optimistic at all. And I gotta say, I'm optimistic that this deal is pretty much done with the UK now. It's all a matter of formality. It's ridiculous that she actually thinks that the FTC is gonna come back in. And yes, the FTC, in theory, I guess they could try to levy some sanctions against Microsoft, but their case is weak. They were obviously trying to protect Sony's interests. And let's just give them the benefit of the doubt that they weren't doing that. That's how it appeared to be, because it was only Sony that would be affected by this deal. And I have to mention once again, Sony was offered a contract, a never before seen contract. They were offered 10 years. They were offered some additional games. And when the FTC lost their case, Sony signed that contract with the quickness. And you know what? They got even less this time than Microsoft was offering them the first time. I think they were going to have some access to some other games, and that no longer is the case. They only will have access to Call of Duty. That is the only game that is guaranteed to be on the PlayStation. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So let's just get back to the analysis.
All right, another question mark, gamers. Dan, we haven't talked about them. What does this mean for them?
Yeah, it could be a good thing for gamers because part of this means that Sony will also get access to these Activision Blizzard titles through Ubisoft. And again, this is it's just, a wild kind of roundabout way of getting over the UK's issues. But Sony players would be able to get access to them, NVIDIA players would be able to get access to them, and this is all via the cloud. So it just means that there would be more choice for gamers to get access to these Activision Blizzard games. It also means that mobile gamers would likely get more access. And I think that's really where Microsoft is trying to head here. Mobile gaming is growing faster. It also is an area where gamers who don't have high-end PCs, don't have even regular PCs, rely on their smartphone, they can get access to these high-end games through Microsoft's Game Pass. And so that's really kind of where the idea for this goes for Microsoft. Get more people hooked through mobile. Sony doesn't really do that. Ubisoft doesn't really do that. NVIDIA can do that. Any of these services can do that, but Microsoft is really focusing on it. And that's kind of the end-all be-all for them with this deal. So I think that, yes, it's very good for consumers across the board if they're able to access these games from the service of their choice. But then for Microsoft, it also helps to preserve that mobile element that's so important to them.
So this is like a sneaky way of Sony getting access to some of these Activision Blizzard games. They will have access to them in the cloud. So the other games that are not Call of Duty that will be available in the cloud, it looks like Sony will be able to get the rights to stream them on their PlayStation service. Now I'm going to have to look more into that, but as I'm getting the information, it appears to be the case. So they won't have it natively on their consoles. They'll have it through the cloud. The only game that they are guaranteed to have natively on their console is Call of Duty. And Microsoft said they would never remove Call of Duty from the PlayStation in the first place because it generates too much revenue. I've said this from the beginning, and a lot of people were against me saying that, no, they're going to make it exclusive, and they should make it exclusive. Call of Duty makes millions, billions of dollars. Why would you remove it from a platform? Why would you take that money away? Those users are not going to come to Xbox and play that game. Yes, some of them will, but a small percentage will. Not as many that you would lose from taking the game off of that platform. That's neither here nor there. I'm just stating a point that I've said this from the get-go. And Sony knew this. We saw the leaked emails. They were not concerned about Call of Duty not being on the PlayStation. In fact, they weren't even concerned about this deal. They didn't think it would affect the PlayStation brand. Now let's go over to theverge.com, and like usual, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Now, the article goes on to say the UK Competition and Markets Authority has given preliminary approval for Microsoft to proceed with its $69 billion Activision Blizzard deal. The CMA had originally blocked the acquisition over cloud gaming concerns, but Microsoft recently restructured the deal to transfer cloud gaming rights from the current and new Activision Blizzard games to Ubisoft. The CMA considers the reconstruction deal makes important changes and substantially addresses the concerns it set out in relation to the original transaction earlier this year. Now, the CMA also said in the press release it opens the door to the deal being cleared. Now, once again, the CMA is saying that it opens the door to the deal being cleared. So that lady that was doing the analysis that we just watched, I don't know what she's talking about. The CMA says that this opens the door to the deal being cleared. Their issue was with the cloud. This addresses that issue. Microsoft is not going to have control of those games. Ubisoft will. So Ubisoft will allow all of the platforms to have this game. Microsoft does not have a say on where these games can go via the cloud. Now, the article goes on to say this is just a preliminary decision ahead of the final approval. The CMA says it's now open a consultation to gain third-party feedback on Microsoft's proposed remedies until the 6th of October. A final decision expected before the extended October 18th deadline. Now, the consultation period is meant to address a few remaining concerns the CMA has with the deal. While the CMA has identified limited residual concerns with the new deal, Microsoft has put forward remedies which the CMA has provisionally concluded should address these issues. Now, a press release from Brad Smith, he goes on to say over on Twitter X, "We are encouraged by the positive development of the CMA's review process. We presented solutions that we believe fully address the CMA's remaining concerns related to cloud game streaming, and we will continue to work towards earning approval to close prior to the October 18th deadline." So that's pretty much it. We're about to finish the story. This is going to close in the next few weeks. I don't expect any more roadblocks in the way. The UK government put a lot of pressure on the CMA to close this deal, to get it done. They wanted the rest of the world to see that the UK is open for business. And this deal was kind of showing the opposite. Now, Microsoft halted their appeal. They went to the tribunal, and the tribunal agreed that in the best interest of the country, that they should get this deal done, and they paused the appeal. So the CMA and Microsoft, they were kind of forced to work together. Now, at that point in time, it seemed like the CMA and Microsoft were on the same page. Now, I know a lot of people were not trusting the CMA, and I gotta be honest with you guys, I was kind of one of them, just because of the way this all went down. Microsoft was trying to contact the CMA to get this deal done, and the CMA was not answering their calls. And then, of course, when the UK government gets involved and the FTC's case crumbles, then they wanted to talk once again. So yeah, I got a little bit of sour grapes, but the good news is that this deal appears to be almost done. Finally, we're at the closing of this whole ordeal that's been going on for months. It's really been a long time, and I just don't see how any other video game company is ever going to be able to do a deal such like this. This will be the last big acquisition from any gaming company, in my honest opinions. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about all this. Are you happy that this ordeal is finally coming to an end? Or do you believe, like this analyst said today, that the FTC can still step in and ruin this deal? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, when this deal is closing, I will come with a final video and wrap this all up. So until then, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next one.